Good morning, guys, and this is your Chats from the Truck episode, whatever. I don't keep score anymore. I was supposed to give you guys one yesterday, and I had a couple people ask, and I was like, shit, people actually anticipate that coming. Well, the story on the reason I didn't give you one yesterday was because my brakes sounded like a Yeti was being rolled down a hill in a pile of hot sauce in every crevice of his body. And every time I'd stop, it was terrible. So, I didn't think you guys wanted to hear that. We got the issue fixed. We're going to start off today with my carry for the day. I am carrying Jake's Spyderco Emphasis, I think it was. I think that's the name of this guy. I had to look it up and match it. It looks like almost a budget version of the Shaman that was made in 2016. It's pretty sweet. And then the CRKT Calico, or Caligo. Now, I know it's kind of hard to see because of the freaking lighting. CRKT Caligo. Now, this knife actually really impresses me so far. As far as the carry and everything on it, it's extremely. It's solid because it's a stainless steel frame lock, I think. But it reminds me of, and I've said it before, and I almost tried to take it back, but it reminds me of the 940. The blade shape is comparable. The handle isn't the exact same, but you guys will see it when I do the review. That review will be coming soon. But today's Chats for the Truck topic is That's Not So Manly. Yep, that is today's Chats for the Truck. A lot of these Chats for the Truck, you guys got to remember, I'm trying to come up with things that are fun to tell and stories to tell you guys. So I sometimes try to keep it knife related, but I guess this is my segment that I don't have to keep it knife related, so I don't, it is what it is. All that being said, the Chats from the Truck today is That's Not So Manly. And every time I say, or I'm not going to say it, but every time that I tell a story that's not so manly, you're going to hear this. Now, if you didn't hear anything there, that's because I couldn't figure out the editing to put that in. But I got something in my mind. So, I'm going to be telling a few stories. They're not manly. These stories are kind of the opposite of manly, such as, and these aren't the stories, but these are examples of stories. Having a rough day at work and having to go home and take a bubble bath with some Epsom salt, and you can't wait to get that warm glass of red wine in you while listening to something like Meredith Brooks in the background, right? That'd be a time for the ding. Your wife coming home and you're sitting there by yourself watching The Notebook and crying. That would be another ding. Get caught by your girlfriend wearing her underwear and dancing around in a wig saying, "I'm so pretty." Ding! Double ding, because that one's a little awkward, right? We don't take it that far. But those are examples of not so manly stories, right? So that's what this upcoming segment's going to be about. I am going to shut off the camera now, do my typical gas station run, kind of get some quick food, get past the portion where I have to go 70 miles an hour. And then I will turn on the camera and I will tell a few stories. Hopefully, they're entertaining. But, before I get to that, not trying to drag this part of it on, but before I get to that, I do want to say, because I am sharing some not so manly stories from my end, I would like to hear in the comments your least manly story in the comments below. And now, if you're a female listening, none of this is meant to be condescending or anything. It's kind of like the man versus the woman and what's expected of us. So if you happen to be a female listening, that would be hilarious to hear a not so manly story that you have seen, not that you have done. But everybody else, the guys, I want to hear what's your least manly thing that you've done, because nobody talks about it and it's friggin' hilarious. Alright, back in a couple minutes. Alright guys, the time has come. The lights are off so you can hide the shame. Stories that are not so manly. These are all personal stories. They're all stories that I have experiences where I look back and I go, that was not manly at all. And some of them are very short. Some of them require a little bit of a background story before I get into it. I kind of came up with this morning as I was thinking, like, what's a topic that could be fun to talk about? Fun and entertaining. And again, these chats in the truck, like I said, are not meant to be all knife related. Some might be and some might not be. Some might be serious, some might be goofy like this. So, as I said before, comment below on your least manly story that you can think of. Yeah, if you get like too crazy, I wouldn't recommend putting something like that out there, but that's on you. Yeah, so all meant to be fun. We all have moments like this, so let's get into it. First manly story, a 5-second story. When I was like 18, I was dating a chick who was 16, went over to her house. We watched The Notebook, and we were watching it in the dark, and she didn't know, but I did shed a tear. That's where that little not so manly comes in. Oh yeah, not very manly to admit that you shed a tear while watching The Notebook for the first time. That's all that story is, right? I had another one that was real quick, and I don't remember what it was. They're kind of hard to all keep track because I don't have any notes or anything. So, the next not-so-manly story, I used to love watching scary movies. I was a scary movie buff. And I still do. I love horror movies, but it seems like ever since like 2006, they stopped coming out with good scary movies. They're like, Annabelle and stuff's good, but they're more like story movies instead of like movies that scare the crap out of you. So I was over at another girl's house. I was 22. We watched Paranormal Activity 1. I had never seen this movie before, and she fell asleep, and I had never stayed over at this chick's house before. So she's sleeping right next to me, and I'm watching this, and I watched the whole frickin' movie, and I'll never forget the moment where that chick, like the sheets get pulled off the bed, and that chick's leg, like, gets lifted and dragged out of bed, and then she gets, like, dragged down the hallway. Gives me chills just, like, remembering the scene. They did such a good job with that scene. It scared the living shit out of me so badly that the rest of the night, first and foremost, I turned on my go-to, I mentioned this movie before. I turned on my go-to movie, which was The Emperor's New Groove, that makes you feel good about everything immediately afterwards. And she's still sleeping. So we started the movie at like 1 a.m. and the movie got done, say, at 3, right? Whatever. I stayed up until like it was light outside because I could not sleep after watching that movie. Now, there's something about watching a scary movie with somebody to where it's not scary anymore. But when you're watching it by yourself, or, for example, you're in a house that you don't know and the person that you're watching with is passed out and you're so intrigued in the movie that you're, like, in the movie. So, I'm scared as shit. I turn on The Emperor's New Groove, which was also the guys' hangover movie. Like, all the guys, when we'd get drunk in the neighbor, we'd fucking wake up, turn on The Emperor's New Groove, and just, like, lounge around. It was hilarious. But, she had this humidifier in the house that, seriously, every 10 minutes would go, and it sounds so stupid, but after you just watch something freaky as shit, and you don't realize this chick has a humidifier in the house, you can logically assume that it's something like a humidifier, but when your senses are heightened and you don't know what the hell's going on, and you're sitting there in the dark, you're scared, and then all of a sudden you hear a in the darkness. Man, that thing scares the living crap out of you. So yes, I met this girl at a bar, went home with her. No, I don't think that's how I met her. I met her differently. But anyways, it was a not manly moment to where the first time I stayed over at this chick's house, I could not sleep until the light came up. For whatever reason, this movie jacked me up at that point in time. Pretty friggin' hilarious. Looking back on it, it's funny, but in the moment, you're like, dude, this sucks. Like, how do I justify watching The Emperor's New Groove in a house that I don't know with a chick that you just stayed the night with? So that's where the, if I can get it in there, that's where that's going to go. Second, not manly story. I was on watch. We were walking through what they called the mega building. There's 2 of us, but there's like 3 groups of people in 2s. So there's 6 people walking this whole building. And keep in mind, this building is about the size of like 3 football fields. It's freaking huge. That might be an exaggeration, but it's pitch black where you're walking. You have a flashlight and stuff, and all you're doing is you're supposed to be watching to make sure nobody's doing anything they're not supposed to be doing. And I'm talking to my watch buddy. I don't know who it is. And we're walking, and I keep hearing this as we're walking. And these hallways are like, they're long, they're dark. It's like you don't recognize where you're at because you don't normally go to these places anyways. So every so often I would hear a in the darkness, and you're like, the other person's not reacting to it at all. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, what the fuck? I don't want to be the guy that's like, do you hear that? Do you hear that? Do you hear that? Right? So I'm walking and I'm turning the corner, and I feel something whiz past my head. Like you can feel the air of whatever was flying through the air kind of like hit your ear. It didn't hit me, but I felt the air whiz past my ear, and I screamed like a chick. Like I screamed, and I happened to cock my fist back and run at whatever I thought it was, but I wasn't going to accomplish anything if there was something there, because it was like I guess a fight or flight response, and I think I was trying to run, but I wanted to look cool, so I raised my fist like I was going to do something. Yeah, no, that literally, turns out it was my buddies walking around the corner, and they must have saw us before I saw them, and he had like a racquetball or something, and he like baseball pitched that thing in my head. I'm lucky it didn't hit me, but it scared me so bad. Like I said, I screamed like a little bitch, cocked my fist up to make it look cool, but sprinted at whatever it was. I don't know if I was trying to run away. I don't know what the hell I was doing. No idea. But the scream that came out of my mouth, I don't think ever came out of my mouth again or before that in my life. And it was one of those, you were kind of embarrassed to do it. Like it wasn't good. So, right, not so manly. The last story I got, unless I can remember the ones that I was thinking about before I got done thinking about this. This one's probably the best. I saved the best for last on this. When I was 19, this was before I joined. I think I was 18 or 19. I was doing MMA and boxing. I'd gotten into MMA just because I wrestled in high school, and I can kind of keep up with the jiu-jitsu guys at the time, just based on my wrestling skills, but I wasn't great at MMA. But boxing, I have a long, lanky, body, so I was weighing in 160, but I was 6 foot with like a 78-inch wingspan or something of that nature, so I had a pretty good, setup there. I think there was about 4 of us that were both into MMA and boxing that would always stay after class. We were like the competition group. Like we were the group that wanted to fight. That I was helping the guys train for fights, and we were like the manliest of men, right? That's the way you see it, at least. It's a bunch of dudes hanging out, beating the shit out of each other, and practicing for a cage fight. Well, one day I show up and I have a black eye. The guys, they look at me and they go, in a setting like that, everybody wants to know what happened. You're all fighters, y'all think you can throw down with anybody, and for the most part, if there was somebody who wasn't trained, you probably could, but it's all classroom fighting, it's all gym fighting, it's not street fighting. So if I were to fight somebody who didn't want to play kosher, they didn't. Anyways, long story short, if you were to step in the boxing ring with us, we'd do pretty well against you. If you were to step into the street with us, we probably wouldn't, but take that or leave it. And they go, what happened to your eye, man? Everybody wants to know, what happened? So you're sitting after class, and I didn't want to tell the story. They were dragging it out of me. They were like, what? Seriously, what happened? And I go, well, do you guys want to know the real story, or do you want to know the fake story? They're like, come on, dude, just tell us the real story. What happened? Did you get your ass kicked? Like, seriously? What happened? Well, I was at home. I was wrestling with one of my dogs. I grabbed the dog around the waist, and the dog started to try and kick out. And it was like, as a kid, you like train your dogs to roughhouse, right? So, you know, you wrap them around the waist and they try to kick out, and then they come back at you, and you're just playing left and right. I go, well, I wrapped the dog around the waist, and the dog donkey kicked out of my hands and out of my grip, and one of the feet during the donkey kick hit me square in the face. Right in the eye. Gave me probably the worst black eye I've ever had in my life. Not true, I had one really. I had one not very good in the neighborhood. So they were like, oh shit. What kind of friggin' dog was that? Like, that's insane. The dog gave you the black eye? You got like a Rottweiler, man? Like a pit bull? What kind of dog was that? Damn. You know, and once again, I lowered my head and I hesitated to tell them the truth because in the moment, it wasn't manly. Well, and they go, it was a girl dog? What the I'm like, that's not the bad part. It was a standard poodle. And they go, shut up. Nope, dead seriously. The dog that gave me a black eye, the only animal that ever gave me a black eye, was a standard poodle. My mom used to groom, breed, and show standard poodles, and that's all we grew up with as a kid. And, yeah. And better yet, her name was Karma, and she was probably the girliest dog that, if you imagine their typical standard poodle, that's kind of how this dog was. She was an idiot and super fun, but she was very, very feminine. And that's the dog that gave me the worst black eye I've had until I got a freaking sucker punch at one point in time, but that doesn't count. Not part of the non-manly stories. That one's a bullshit story. So that's where the goes. Alright. This is the last one. Very, very short. It was with... that's the last one. So, we were in Myrtle Beach. We were on vacation with my now it's my wife. I was with her sister and her sister's now ex-boyfriend, but boyfriend at the time. We weren't married or nothing. We all go out to a steakhouse. And the waitress comes around and she's asking everybody what they want to drink. And I'm like, I'll go last. You know, I just, whatever, I'll go last. I don't know what I want. So my wife orders a beer. My sister-in-law orders a beer. My sister-in-law's boyfriend at the time orders a beer. What do I order? A cucumber martini. Let that resonate for a second. Never had a cucumber martini in my life, but I ordered a frickin' cucumber martini. Now, why did I order it? In my mind, A, it sounded delicious, but B, I like the taste of cucumber shit, so it's like, I wanted to try it, but nowhere in my mind did I register that was like, I guess I didn't see the scenario where both women bought like a Miller Lite or something like that. The dude gets like a Guinness, and I go, I'll take a cucumber martini. So my wife looks at me, and she's actually embarrassed at this point in time. And she gets embarrassed easy. I don't really get embarrassed, but she gets embarrassed easy. And she looks at me and she goes, seriously? Like, why would you do, like criticizing my drink? And I'm like, yeah, I just want to try it. Just, let me just try it, leave me alone. I like trying new foods and stuff anyways. And, they bring out the drinks, they hand the dude this dark beer, they hand my wife their 2 big-ass mugs of beer, and then I get this little martini glass that's filled with this lime green liquid. And it definitely I think the lady actually forgot and tried to hand the drink to one of the girls too. But it definitely was probably the least manly thing that I could have done in that moment. And yeah, on the flip side, everybody loved the drink. They thought it was fantastic. And it was delicious. But that's where you kind of lose your man card for the night and you get the staple, not so manly. So those are my not so manly stories. As I said, guys, I'm sure I have more. I kind of came up with this on the fly, and that's why you could feel there's a little bit of choppiness in telling the stories. But I had told probably most of these several times. And yeah, so not so manly stories. I want to hear your guys' least manly story in the comments below. It doesn't have to be long. You can make it long. I don't care. Let's keep it entertaining in the sake of chats in the truck. Have no pride in telling these stories. There's no judgment coming from me. I'm sure somebody watching this will judge. I don't really give a shit. The point of it is to have fun and make fun of yourselves. So yeah, leave them in the chats below. The one thing that I will ask you guys, you know, it's fun to make fun of each other, but if somebody leaves a comment below, do not make fun of them. Like don't make it personal, right? If we're all kind of having this community and somebody, I'll delete the comment if you guys are gonna make it personal to try and make somebody feel bad. But that, you know, we're all just kind of sitting here just shooting this shit and telling stories. So yeah, I got one more. It's not so much a non-manly story, but it's kind of one of those where you felt less manly for it. My ex-girlfriend, before I met my wife, we were together like 3 years or something, but I met her online and we met at a bar in my hometown and we clicked right away, like everything was cool. And so we're walking out to the cars and in front of my car was parked like this old school Trans Am that was like decked out. It just looked like, you know, for you car guys out there, it looked badass. It sounded badass. I heard it going around the freaking block. But we're walking out to the car and it's parked in front of my car. And she goes, "Oh my gosh, is that your car?" And that feeling in your heart when you know that that's not your car and that your car is much less manly than that is, when you first meet a girl, is one of the worst feelings that you can't control. Regardless of how much pride or humility or how much you don't give a shit what people think, this was one of those moments where you could not stop it, right? I said, no, my car is behind that car. And my car was a Saturn Ion at the time. I had that car for like 6 years or something like that. No, it was longer than that. It was about 8. But it was this gray little Saturn Ion that, you know, it's kind of the same thing as a dude driving a Sunfire. Not judging. Everybody has their reasons, but yeah. The look on her face was like, I thought we were done in that moment. I honestly thought we were done, because she gave me a look like, okay. And you're rocking the Saturn. Yeah, not judging if you guys got that car, but you guys know what it's like to have a car, you know, when you grow up. This was the car that you got. I'm not a car guy. I don't really care, but that moment kind of sucked. Not so manly. All right, guys. This one might have been lame, might have been entertaining. I don't know. It's a fun one, so like I said, leave your comments below. I'm not going to give this subscribe plug. I know those of you that actually listen to these are probably subscribed. That's what makes our community. But if you haven't, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. You guys have a great day. Today is Tuesday. Let's get through this day together. I got 1 or 2 more reviews that I'm going to release before I have to record some more. And I do have to modify one of them. I screwed up on one. But you guys have a great day. Stay sharp. Stay safe. And, yeah, try to be a little bit more manly than these stories. Have a good one.